get a cleaner idea about what the market is gonna do next. So always keep this futures chart open. It will tell you a lot more about what you are doing. About price action and volume action. So what we are focused on is the volume action, right? There are about 3 elements, okay, which go into the makings of a chart. Price, the most important one. Supporting one is volume, and the second supporting one is time. Okay, and at different replays, different days, different times of the session, and at different days of the week, each of these 3 play differently, right? So you know that between 2:30 and 3:30, because of the option plays and because of settlement pressure, because of this particular time, 2:30 to 3:30, the market works differently, right? And that point of time, the time becomes more important than price and even sometimes volume. But at certain times, let's say about 9:15 to 10:15, the volume component of the market is more important. A lot of traders are brought up into thinking that price is everything, and that concept is still there. Bhav Bhagwan Che, you know. But Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. There are 3 Bhagwans. One is price, one is volume, and the third one is time. And if you can pay attention to these 3, especially as a derivative trader, you will cut out a lot of mistakes, okay, which you make in derivative trading. The whole idea as retail traders is to eliminate. The question is, okay, what time frame is best, okay, to monitor the 10-bar COT? Whether you trade a 1-minute time frame or a 3-minute time frame or a 15-minute time frame or the 30-minute time frame, the most important time frame in the market is always the higher time frame, right? So the monthly chart is a little bit more significant than the weekly chart, and the weekly chart is more significant than the daily chart, and the daily chart is more significant than a 60-minute chart, and the 60-minute chart is more significant than a 30-minute chart, right? So it flows from there. The higher the time frame, the more is the weightage of the market, right? Now, why do I say that? Is because 1 bar of 3 minutes or 1 bar of 1 minute does not make a market, right? A lot of people, what they do is like they take a signal, okay, from a 1-minute bar, and whatever signal it is, a moving average crossover or an RSI or a MACD or whatever, okay, they look at and they extrapolate that and they expect that result, okay, over the next 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, and 5 years also, right? There's nothing, okay, like that ever in markets. We have something called the rule of 10 bars. Whichever time frame, okay, you're looking at, hold that signal, okay, for the next 10 bars also. So if you got a signal, say in a stock in the monthly time frame, that signal is valid, okay, typically for the next 5 months. Okay, if you have a signal in a weekly time frame, that signal is typically valid, okay, for about 4 or 5 weeks, unless something changes to upset, okay, that signal, or something contra happens, right? But that is a holding period. So same thing, okay, if you get a signal in a 3-minute chart, don't expect it to hold for the next 3 days, right? The validity of that signal is 3 minutes into 10 bars, that is 30 minutes only.
Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. Am I audible? Welcome back, everyone. And let us start with what we normally do on Monday evenings. We'll have the weekly review of what has happened last week. And then we will get down to business of what has happened. We'll see what has happened today. And then look forward for the most important trading day of this month, which is tomorrow, the budget day, and see what probabilities are there on both sides. So let us start with the weekly spot chart. This report is up on the website, and this talks about what has happened last week. So we start with the Nifty spot. For longer time frame, we use the spot references because the derivatives are uh, only monthly based ones where volumes come in and then they shift to the next series. So for higher time frame charts, we look at the spot for both weekly as well as monthly. So what we have done last week in Nifty is, you can see this chart is, we have a small brief of what happened in the week prior to last week, which was a neutral extreme profile to the upside, and it has a small responsive buying tail at close, and it has formed higher value, overlapping to higher value. So we have we had left an extension handle at this 24461, and that was the level to watch on the downside for the week which got over on Friday last. So last week what we did was we opened above that extension handle. This was that extension handle of 24461. We opened above that, and we started the week with similar lows on the downside. So we opened above value and above the extension handle, so it was a bullish start, and after which we continued to remain in a narrow range, but the value was more on the upside. So we formed a higher POC on Tuesday than Monday, and then in the probe lower, I'll just get back to the, yeah. So these are the daily. Monday we formed a normal variation day to the upside, and then Tuesday when we made those new all-time highs, we saw rejection. What happened on at lows on Monday, where similar lows was showing us exhaustion on the downside, same thing happened on the upside on Tuesday. So the similar highs uh, at the top was showing us that the auction is running out of oxygen, and from there we went on to probe lower and form a neutral center day. So the neutral center was telling us that there is no demand at the top. So which is why the auction had to go lower. And which is what we did after the holiday we had on Wednesday. We opened lower on Thursday. And in the lower open, what we did was we made a marginal new low. We repaired this poor lows from Monday, and we made a marginal new low, but which got rejected, and we left a failed auction here. So this became the all important part, and that level was 24504, and we went on to make a neutral extreme day to the upside. And once we made this neutral extreme day to the upside, the failed auction of 24504, once we get a failed auction, we look at the 180R and 280R as the probable objectives, and both those objectives were hit. The 280R was at 24858, and neutral extreme profile rarely gives a follow up. So that is the reason when we made this neutral extreme day up, we were little skeptical for about remaining long. So what we did on Friday was we opened higher, we made a lookup above the previous high, and in that process we also completed the 280R objective of the failed auction. From there we left an initiative selling tail. So again, once again, the new all-time highs got no demand, and that encouraged the sellers to come back. So this was an initiative selling tail, and we went on to negate the entire neutral extreme profile and almost tagging this FA point. We made a low of 24508 on Friday, just holding above the FA point, but it was a clear trend day down, which had marked the return of sellers. So this initiative selling tail at new all-time highs is a very important and strong reference now for us moving forward, for not for just the month of July, but also going forward in August, provided this is not taken out. If in case we take off this selling tail tomorrow in the budget day, then this becomes irrelevant, and then whatever reference we new latest reference we get tomorrow would be the fresh levels which we would carry forward. But for now, the close on Friday was a bearish one, and even on the weekly scale, what we did was, this is the weekly chart. The weekly profile is a neutral one with completely higher value. Although we formed higher value and we completed the 3 IB objective on the upside, it has seen rejection in form of an initiative selling tail at new all-time highs. So, and has closed below the weekly value area. So one thing was that we have a selling tail on the daily chart at new all-time highs, and the second part was we closed below the value area of the weekly profile. So two things were pointing to that the sellers were in the tape, and the immediate support was the FA of 24504 and the VPOC of 24500, and then as I mentioned the extension handle of 24461. So break of which we could have gone, because we are looking at the weekly chart. So break of these two references would have taken us back to this VPOC, unvisited POC of 24296 from the week of 8th to 12th July. So that was the expectation coming into today's open. And on the upside, we have the trend day extension handles of 24590, 678, and 727, which will be the hurdle for the bull to cross for a test of 24801. So we have this analysis done up and ready, and this was done yesterday before the much before the market opened today, and we were ready with the hypos for today. So we had the hypos. We for on the upside, this was our first hypo, and whereas on the downside, we opened well below the three hypos. We opened with a gap down, and we made a low of 24362 today. So I'll take you to the weekly chart and see. So this is the weekly chart, and we will relate this. We'll get what happened today in the weekly chart. And what I'm going to do is I'll split this into a two window mode so that we can have the spot Nifty spot daily chart on the left and the weekly spot chart on the right. And I'll split today's profile. This week we have only one single day, so this is as good as the daily profile. And this is the daily. So what we did in the lower open is we took support right at this composite value area high. We have mentioned in this hypos of given for today 24354, which was the 7-day value area high from 3rd to 11th of July. And if I can, so this is that composite which we are talking about. And why we have taken this as a composite, because on the 12th of July we signaled a move away from this balance to a start of a fresh imbalance. So we can say this fresh imbalance has been signaled to end as we have got this initiative selling tail on 19th. So which is why now market has gone back into balance mode, and it is testing the zone from where the last imbalance had started. So the lows we made was right at that value area high. For example, for instance, if we had have broken into this value, then there was a clear case of 80% rule getting triggered in this composite, and this POC would have been our objective 24281, which is also the monthly POC and very close to this weekly VPOC of 24296. So, but the fact that we were taking support here told us that the buyers who had started this initiative activity were holding, at least for now. And what we did today was we got back into this weekly value, and so once we get back into this weekly value, our objective would have been the POC, which is 24625. So we were not able to tag that, and there's a reason for that, because we had a trend day on 19th, and you can see how on the trend day we have this JTPO halfback exactly at the 24595, which is where the D period made a high today. Trend day we do not consider the value, so this value is not considered because trend day is an elongated profile to the downside, so we only take the halfbacks and the POC. So this halfback of J period from where the market made a fresh move lower into the close was where we stalled on the upside. And this was also mentioned in the weekly report, where that on the upside we have this trend day extension handle. The first extension handle was at 24590, and right there we were met with resistance. So we have stalled here, and what we have done today is formed a P-shaped profile, which is a short covering profile. So what is the reason for the short covering profile? Could be because we definitely had sellers on 19th, because we can see that in the initiative selling tail. And what has happened today in the gap down is those sellers would have booked profit, but there have been lot of guys who have missed the fall and they have tried to enter late, sold in the at the open today. So we will have a look at that even in the order flow chart when we see the uh, order flow in the Nifty futures chart. And but this is very clearly telling us it took support at an important zone, and then it has formed a short covering P-shaped profile. So although the seller has held on to the extension handle of 24590, the and it'll need some more selling now below today's POC. So looking forward for tomorrow, what would be the references in spot? On the weekly, we are still below previous POC, so it is not at all a bullish sign. But only thing is we have left an buying tail today. So this buying tail would be our reference. So this zone of 24460 will be the support for tomorrow. It will need to hold. In case we break this 24460, then we can look for completion of this weekly VPOC tag of 24296. And immediate reference would be the POC where we have closed today. The close today was around 24510. So that is around the POC of a P-shaped profile. So above the POC, we would be slightly bullish. Below the POC, we would be slightly bearish. And if we break into this 24460 zone, then we can look for a test of the yesterday's lows, and then this 24296 weekly VPOC. On the upside, we will have to get back above the 24595 level for a tag of this VPOC, and then we have already given the levels, the extension handles of 24678 and 727 would be the higher references. So what we are going to do today is we would update that weekly report with the fresh hypos for tomorrow. So that will be based on what has happened today in market, and we will include all the latest references, latest data. So we will need to see, and tomorrow being the budget day, we can expect that to be a little volatile. But then once the event is out, we can expect a good trending move in one direction. So we will have to be ready for it and see how best we can play it out. So this is how we are placed in Nifty spot. 24510, the POC where we have closed, is the opening reference. 24460 on the downside will be the immediate support, below which we are looking for a test of these singles, and then the weekly VPOC of 24296. On the upside, we will have to take off that 24590 595 zone, and then we are looking for these extension handle tag of 24678, and then finally get into this selling tail. So unless we negate this initiative selling tail on any of the days, it could be tomorrow or maybe later, we are not going to be bullish in Nifty spot, because this is an initiative one. So we can look for sellers to come back in a test of this zone. So we will have to be very watchful what happens when we are testing this zone here. So this is as far as the Nifty spot is concerned. Let us now go to the Bank Nifty profile. I'll just take a small pause in case there are any queries related to what we have covered so far in Nifty spot. Fine. So I think there are no queries. So let's move on to the Bank Nifty spot. What has happened? There is a question which asks, is P-shape always a short covering? P-shape generally is a short covering, which happens most of the times, but there are days, sometimes there are rare days where we get a P-shaped profile on the top. Generally, P-shaped profile comes when the market is falling because it indicates the shorts were already in the market and they are forced to cover. Sometimes we do get uh, P-shaped profile at highs, which is a case of buying getting exhausted. So they can be uh, two kinds of P-shaped profile, but most of the times it is a short covering profile. So coming back to the Bank Nifty spot chart in the weekly report, what we did last week was, you can see this is the daily chart compared to the previous week, and you can see how all the days remained inside previous week's range and value. So we made an attempt to move out of value, but we were rejected. We left one failed auction on the first day last week, which was at 52154, and we had spoken about this in the session we had at 5 o'clock last Monday. So that would remain an important support, and that held all week because the low we made on 18th was just above this, and the low we made on Friday did tag this, but it was a very brief marginal new low which we made. So this FA failed auction point held the downside for the week. But on the upside, what had happened was we had this responsive selling tail from the previous week, and the rollover point also we have been mentioning about that, which was at uh, 52835, which was an important reference in uh, Bank Nifty spot as well as futures. So that was not been taken out. So when we are looking at a series and the monthly reference, we give lot of importance to the rollover point. So below rollover point we remain bearish, and above the rollover point we remain bullish. So Nifty has been a bullish case all through because 24110 was the rollover point for the month of July. Whereas in Bank Nifty we did remain above that rollover point for the first part, but then once we broke that 52830, Bank Nifty is more uh, a sell on rise kind of an auction market. So that is what has happened. The downside, the failed auction was holding on, but the upside was getting rejected in this responsive selling tail. So we had made a high of 52794 last week, which was on Friday, last Friday, and we made a similar high on Thursday this week, the in the week which just went by. I think 52782 was the high. So it was very clear that the Bank Nifty remains in this balance. It is still not ready to live this balance. So we formed a neutral extreme and a normal double inside bar, then a normal outside bar on Thursday, and then a normal variation down. So on Friday, it looked as if it wants to move on the lower side because it left this VPOC of Thursday and it formed lower value. So that was a indication where it could continue on the downside. But on the weekly profile, you can see the weekly profile is such a beautiful Gaussian curve, and it was a neutral center profile where, just like in Nifty, we have closed near the value area low. So this 52241 was our reference on the downside. The weekly profile is a neutral center one with both range and value being completely inside. So it continued the balance that has been forming on the higher time frame with a clear rejection at the top because the previous week's selling tail extreme will be the new swing reference. So 52794 remains our swing reference for this week and tomorrow, and above which we can expect it to go for these daily VPOCs of 52961 and the weekly VPOC of 5300. So these are the levels which we can look for on the upside in case we are getting a move tomorrow once the event is out, and it can also look for the all-time high of 53357 in the coming days. Whereas on the downside, we have this 52241, which is this week's value area low. If it remains below this, we were expecting a test of the lower VPOC of 51923 and 51635. And if we continue the downside, then the main swing reference on the downside would be this 51136 level, which is also a monthly reference. So these are the references which are in front of us for Bank Nifty spot for this week, and we will need to see how it plays out. We have also put up the hypos for today, and we tagged this 519223 VPOC today at the open today. So let us have a look at what happened in the Bank Nifty. So as you can see, this is previous week's profile, and what we have done today, and just like I did with Nifty, I will share the daily chart also so that we can have a look at the daily VPOC of 51923. So we have the weekly Bank Nifty spot chart on the left and the daily spot chart on the right. So here you can see what we have done today is the lower open has tagged this unvisited POC from 11th of July, which was at 51923 and which was also mentioned in the weekly report, and it was also part of the hypos for today. So what we do is whenever we are tagging one objective, we see what if the market profile chart is showing us rejection or acceptance. Acceptance is what? Acceptance means we would have remained below this POC and form lower lows. Rejection is we leave a tail over here. So what we did was it was a very swift rejection wherein we just tagged and immediately got back into previous day's range, and we completed the 80% rule in the Friday's value. On the weekly chart, if you see what we have done, we have got into this weekly value of 52241, and immediately the first objective of the 80% rule, which is the midpoint or the POC, has been tagged, which is at 52408. So if you see the hypos, you can see how clearly we knew what were the downside. Once we opened lower, we got back above this 52241. The upside was very easy, 52302, which was the POC from Friday, and then 52408, which was the weekly POC. So we thus completed the 80% rule, the first part of the 80% rule, and then for us to continue to the upper end, which was 52506, we needed a fresh range extension after the C side. But that did not come today, and we stalled at this POC level and then formed a P-shaped profile in Bank Nifty also. So what is the reference now for Bank Nifty for tomorrow as well as the week going forward? So on the daily chart, you can see we have formed overlapping value for the 2 days. And even on the weekly, you can see this today's profile looks like a small piece which needs to get fixed into this previous week's profile. So here we have this nice 2-day composite with a POC at 52292, which is where we have closed today. So just like in Nifty, the POC would be the opening reference, and this buying tail which we have today from 52137 would be the support for Bank Nifty spot. On the upside, we will need to get accepted above this weekly POC and then take out this weekly value area high. So we also have a 4-day so this is what we will be looking for. And as mentioned in the report, 52794 would be that swing reference. And we have a VPOC, higher VPOC at 52686, not 52566, which was the POC from 18th of this POC from where we got rejected. So you can see how on the upside, we rejected the Thursday's POC at open on Friday, and then we continued to probe lower. So when you reject one POC in one direction, the market profile immediately wants to tag the POC of the other direction, the immediate VPOC of the other direction. So we saw that on the weekly scale. In fact, a weekly scale on in Nifty, where we held above that weekly POC of 524296 and went on to look for a probe to the previous week's POC of 24625. So similarly here we got rejected at this 51923 VPOC. So on the upside, the first POC which was coming was this 52408, which it tagged, and this was done in the initial balance itself. So this is how we are placed in Bank Nifty spot. So we will have to see how this plays out as we are below the rollover point, and also today's value is not above Friday's value. It is not a bullish signal nonetheless, but we this buying tail of today, the AP rate tail, is what we can uh, expect the buyers to hold. And if they are able to hold that and form higher value tomorrow, then we can look for a fresh imbalance to the upside. So that is how we are placed in the Bank Nifty spot. In case you have any queries on Bank Nifty spot, you can please post them. Before we move on to the futures chart and have a look at today's order flow and then wrap up for the day. So just like for Nifty, even the Bank Nifty hypos would get updated in the weekly report for tomorrow. The weekly report has dates added in that. So tomorrow's hypos would get added, and we can expect tomorrow's range to be a bigger one because of the event. But all said and done, everything will be based on the open type and the volumes which we get in the at the open, and then accordingly. So fine, guys. In case there are no more no queries on spot, let us move on to the futures chart and see what we have done in Nifty futures. So we had spoken about how in spot from 12th of July we started a fresh imbalance. Same thing was in the futures, was visible in the futures, where we made higher value on 12th, and from that day we were making higher POCs each day. So what happened on 18th was we made this neutral extreme profile up, and we saw the POC shift to the top. So it was very clear in futures where you have volumes, it gives us much more clarity, and it is very more clearer that this was profit booking by the longs. So, and this entire rise which came in the second half of the day was on red caught, which we have also shared on Twitter, on X. So it was very clear that we were looking for a retracement on the next day. But what we got was more than a retracement, because we not only left a selling tail swipe through this POC, and we continued to fall, make lower lows all day, giving a good trend day down. But in the trend day down, what happened? We saw the POC shifting lower. So just like how the buyers on 18th booked profit into the close, and these buyers not only included the buyers who were on this day, but also the buyers who had entered from 12th of July. So once that happened, what the next day did was completely reverse the range, and it was almost a mirror profile with the similar range, similar highs and lows, but opposite closes. We closed around the highs on Thursday, and we closed around the lows on Friday. So this close was a bearish one, and we were expecting this down move to continue, but the POC shifting lower was indicating that the sellers were booking profits. So the lower open, what happened in the lower open today was we tested these anchored VWAPs. We have anchored VWAPs starting from important swing lows. You can see how what the swing lows were. We had a trend day on the 26th. That was one anchored VWAP, and 10th of July and 1st of July were the swing lows of this series, 24212 and 24082. So we have these three anchored VWAPs from those three levels, and you can see how this third anchored VWAP is coinciding with the VPOC of 11th. So why do we say from 12th we started an imbalance? Because it has moved away from the previous POC. So from this VPOC of 24352, we got that signal here. And from there, we were forming higher VPOCs till the 18th. So 19th was the first day we formed lower value, and then that has kind of not actually continued, because today's value is more overlapping and not completely lower. So the POC, today's POC is at 24504, and the VWAP is also around the same place. So just like we spoke in Nifty spot, the AP rate buying tail would be important, and on the upside we will have to get into this trend day profile of Friday, and most importantly take off this VWAP. A trend day VWAP is very important, just like a neutral extreme day VWAP is. So on Friday when we broke this neutral extreme VWAP, it was very clear that the sellers are in complete control. So similar thing, till the time we don't see the auction get above this 10-day VWAP, we will expect the sellers to hold on and come back. So so how was the open and how could we trade the open today? So let us have a look at the order flow chart of Nifty futures and see how we could have traded this open, provided we did not have any positions, overnight positions. So I'll just quickly, we have the 3-minute order flow chart on screen, and I'll just quickly run through the 3-minute order flow chart and see what we could have done. So in order flow, what we do is we look at initiative signals. So we look at IB, which is initiative buying bar, or IS, initiative selling bar. And when those signals come at the VWAP of the day, it gives us much more importance, because the references it leaves at the VWAP when it is giving a IB or an IS will tell us how far it can move away from that zone. And we have that as our reference to even calculate the objectives. So here you can see at the open we had zeros on the buy side, the 915 bar, and we probe lower. And we did see good reds coming in. We saw this 1112 red, 1137 red, even the cot was deep red, minus 4466. So we were expecting this down move to continue. But what happened in the opening bar is we nowhere close near the lows, and in fact it was getting clearer that the selling is getting exhausted at the lows, and these sellers who had come in at this level are not able to do much because the price of the bar is very high. And even the next bar you see has gone back above VWAP and it has left an RB bar, and we have got this 813 buyer. So we can see how the cot is slightly changed. And when you are expecting more downside, or when you are expecting the sellers to dominate, they will make sure they keep the auction below VWAP. So that is our marker for the day, and we always look at what happens at VWAP and how the auction is behaving at VWAP. There will be days where market is in a range and it will be just circling around VWAP. So that is a day where you don't want to trade on the long side, because you know the market is going to be in a range. So it is better either selling a straddle or a strangle, or not trade at all. But on days where you're getting rejection at VWAP and the initiative signal at VWAP, those are the days where you look for getting into the market. So when we got this RB bar, and immediately next bar 921, we had a big green bar closing above VWAP. So this was telling us if you are short, there is no reason to be short, because the seller are not able to do a good job. Why? Because the auction is closed with a big green bar above VWAP. Yes, we are getting sellers. We have getting fresh sellers at the top. We have zeros at the buy side, but the seller has not been able to do a good job because they had to keep this below VWAP. Yes, agreed. It was a gap down, so there was some profit booking which was coming in, which was giving us this bounce. So given the benefit of doubt also, what we had to see was a retest of the VWAP and the break of VWAP with an IS, which would have told us they were short. The bounce was because of short covering, and now that the shorts have booked profits, they will come back and they will again break VWAP and take us to lower levels. But that never happened. Once we got back above VWAP, you can see how we remained above VWAP. So what this is doing is, whatever selling which was coming in at higher levels was being forced to cover, because in spite of we getting red caught continuously, the price kept going higher. We never were able to come back. We got this big 2253 buyer who became our reference, because this was the first big green we saw in the day. So this was our reference. And if the seller had to come back, they had to negate this buyer and then break VWAP. So that is what we were looking for, to go short or go long on the put side. But that never happened. Although we have not seen an IB signal as such, but the fact that Nifty came back above VWAP was good enough reason for us to look for a short covering move. And the short covering move would have been the POC of previous day, which was 24537, the objective of that move. And above that, we also have an extension handle at 24590 in futures also. So that was our reference as we were looking at this order flow in the morning in the trading room. So, and that is what it played out. Here also, you can see how in the 957 bar, we hit that POC level of 24537, Friday's POC, and again formed an RS bar. But then you can see the cot is green because of shorts being forced to cover. And this RS again got negated, and we went on to make higher highs in the B period. So when we are continuing to make these highs, our reference will become the extension handle of 24590, and these references are also given on futures levels in the daily report which is published on the website, that is apart from the weekly report which we do on spot. So these references were given in the daily report, and 24590 was one reference which we were looking for. So as long as we remained above the VWAP and above the A period, we were, that was one objective which was coming. And here finally we got this IB bar at the end of the B, so we could take this POC as the reference for that 24590 to get achieved as a trailing stop loss. And here once we hit that objective and we made this new highs in the D period, you can see how we got the first IS signal of the day. So when we tested that extension handle of 24590, we got an RS bar, the 91048 bar, and immediately next we are getting an IS. So now this was a very clear indication that if you are long, if you were looking on the long side for the bottom, that it is getting over, because till this 1051 we did not get a single IS bar today. So here once we got this, it was expected that we can look for a dip, and this is what was happening in the dip. And we had that reference of 24460, and we had the A period POC at 24480, which was our reference on the downside. So we had to look for a fresh RB plus IB to go long, but what instead we got was another IS. So once you get IS plus IS inside the 10 bar rule, inside 30 minutes, so here it is very clear that now we have a very good chance of testing that 24480, 24460 level. So IS plus IS means now the sellers are back, and you can see how we remained below the first IS reference. And when we try to tag this ISPOC, we got RS. So we did not get a single IB bar after that in order flow, and that IS plus IS signal stayed, and it gave us that VWAP tag, and we broke below VWAP also. We made that low of 24480, and 24470 was the uh, low we made in the G period. So we almost went on to complete that objective which we had. And why this was important? Because we were entering the A period buying tail. So this was a demand zone. So we had to get a fresh IS signal here to continue remain being short. Else, this was a very good signal to book profits if you are on the short side. So after that, we have not got any further signal, and market was in a narrow range. Considering that we have an event tomorrow, it was expected that it can consolidate. So that is what we have done for the rest of the day. So you can see we remained below that IS reference, which came at the end of D period. And then on the downside, we held that 24460 reference we got in the first buy signal of the day. And what we have done is we have closed around the POC of 24510 and formed a P-shaped profile. So we will have to now see, wait how it plays out tomorrow and what kind of order flow signals we get. So in Nifty, the only order flow signal we got in the morning was immediately that green bar above getting closing above VWAP. So that was very clearly telling us that the late shorts, the laggards whom we call, would get trapped, and that is why we have that P-shaped profile. So it also confirms the short covering profile which we have seen on the day as closed. And why we have not bullish all out is because we have not seen buying buy side volumes at that 24590 reference. So we will have to take out 24590 on the upside with initiative buy signals in the order flow to continue higher, or we will have to take off this 24460 reference on the downside with an IS bar tomorrow for going lower. So this is as far as the Nifty futures is concerned. A quick look at the Bank Nifty futures chart and then the order flow chart, where we had a much cleaner signal in Bank Nifty to go long at the open. So the Bank Nifty profile chart, you can see how we formed lower value on Friday, and we got rejected from just below this VPOC of 5263 of Thursday. So what we did was formed a balance after that initial move in the D, which tested this VWAP of 11th of July and held this HVN of 52075. So the lower open today, what it did was it broke below this and it went on to test the scene of crime of 11th July. Sorry, yeah, 11th July. We had started with a probe lower. We made that big seaside extension, and then the D period made a low right, taking support right at that unvisited POC from 24th of June. So you can see how we have stalled just right at that POC. So I was giving you examples of how we stalled today in spot at 51923, which was the POC from 11th of July. And in futures also, the 11th of July, we stopped here and we left a scene of crime at this 51982 level. This reference was also given in the business areas of the daily report, which is what got tested in the morning, and we could not get any fresh sell side signals there. If we would have got sell at this level, we would have tested this POC and gone lower to test the VWAP of this day as well as this lower VPOC of 51308. So that was the downside probability in Bank Nifty. But instead, what we did was we got some short covering and we went on to complete the 80% rule in this Friday's value. And what we did today was did the typical seaside extension. So seaside, we all know, is known to be a con period and which gives a fake breakout most of the times. So which is what it did today, and those highs were not taken out for the rest of the day, and then we remained in this narrow range, forming a good P-shaped profile with overlapping value of last 2 days. So coming to the order flow of Bank Nifty, we can see how we opened below that HVN of 52192 from Friday, which was also a reference which was mentioned in the business areas, and we made a big probe down. So similar to Nifty, we had red caught and we had sellers who were coming in at lower levels. But what we did was, even in the opening bar, we could not close below VWAP. And although the next bar was a red one with zeros on the upside, we needed to make new lows. You can see how this is taking support right at that scene of crime level of 51982, which I was showing on the profile chart. So when a scene of crime is not showing you sell side volumes, it is telling us that the downside is done and supply is not adding here. So when this 921 bar closed above VWAP, it was a clear signal that you need to come out of shorts if you are short, or you need to take off that short bias unless we get one IS breaking below this 51982 level. And what we got at 927 was an IB. So we have got a clear buy signal in order flow. And that was again supported by another IB after just 2 bars. So it was very clear that Bank Nifty is rushing higher, and it did. The way it went higher in the first hour or so, mostly in the A period, it climbed from a low of 51932 to a high of 52330. So it made a 400 point move in the A period itself, after which it made marginal new highs in the B period of 52394, and it was getting RS levels. And we can see how when it made that seaside again, it gave a typical RS, and we have not got any more initiative buying signals in the order flow. So it was a very clear case of the seaside showing us that we need to book profit and wait for a fresh buy signal. So here you can see once the seaside was done and when the D period started, this IS bar then signaled that the up move is done. So this RS plus IS signal, now we can look for a test of VWAP, and after which we remained in a narrow range in Bank Nifty also. and we were not able to get back above that 52408 level. So here also you see we've got this fresh IS at 1136. So this POC becomes our fresh reference, and which this also held into the close. So this is how we use order flow as our tools, and they are the best tools you can have when you're trading the shorter time frame. Order flow signals along with COT give you the best edge as far as the trading shorter time frame is concerned. So once we get this IS plus IS, we are looking for a VWAP test, and we did get that VWAP test. And just as I had mentioned, the A period buying tail means there are buyers which are there. So that A period singles can be expected to hold, and which is what we did. We were continuously getting demand at this 52190 level, which was also a HVN from the Friday's profile. So after which we remain we stayed inside this narrow range. 52182 was the downside reference, and 52335 was on the upside. You can see how we just stalled right there. 52336 is the POC which we have been following from that last IS bar we got. This, and this POC was where we were exactly stopping. If we would have gotten IB at this level, then it would have been a case of looking to go long. But you can see how we stalled right at that and gave a fresh IS. So from there again we made a dip lower. Although we did not get too much on the downside, the Bank Nifty was coiling in a very narrow range of 150 points. So given the background of being in a balance of for almost last 10 to 12 days, and then making a coil today, it looks very likely that this is going to give a breakout tomorrow once the event is done with. So the direction of the breakout, we will have to look out, and we will have to be very clear that we make sure we are in that correct direction, which will be held by the order flow and the market profile nuances. So here also again we have closed right at the POC of 5 to 300, and we will have to see what volumes we get in the open tomorrow and how we can take it forward. So a quick look at the profile chart and the levels to watch out for. The downside objectives, in case we are getting selling signals in the order flow, would be these VPOCs of 51852 and this VPOC of 51308, whereas on the upside we have this VPOC of 52663 and 53177. So we will need to see which of these VPOCs get tagged in Bank Nifty. As well, as far as Nifty is concerned, we have this HVN of 24704 from 19th, and then of course the all-time high VPOC of 24810 on the upside as references, whereas on the downside this monthly POC of 24352, and then below that we have this 24201 as the downside objective in case we fall further. So this is how we use the market profile and order flow to get our targets, as well as to see who is doing a better job, and then implement it on the 3-minute time frame. So that's it for today, guys. So let me know if there are any queries. So I'll be happy to answer them before we wind up and get prepared for tomorrow's big day. Kishore has a question: difference between IS and RS. RS is responsive selling, and RS comes when you get responsive is old business. So RS can be buyers who are booking profits. So what we got, if I take the profile chart as an example, or what I'll do is the POC which shifted to the top on Thursday, which was a neutral extreme day, this was because of profit booking. So this was responsive selling. So initiative selling would be at the open we got good sell side volumes at 24810 on Friday. So that was initiative selling. So in order flow, so here we know the there's the entry of an initiative seller, and he will make sure the POC is in the middle or the top part of the bar, and he will make a close at the lower end of the bar. So that is an IS. It will start weak and it will remain weak. It will close at the lows. Whereas RS is will be a bar which is actually a green bar, which is moving higher, but because of profit booking by the longs, the POC shifts from lower part or the lowest part to the upside, and it tells that the longs are booking profit and they are coming out. So we have lot of articles on the website which are explaining these concepts. Identification of initiative selling, we have conditions which are marked for that, and as and when you keep watching these order flow charts, you will keep getting better with these signals. So we are using this to trade the shorter time frame. So the tools are there, that time frames are there. We have a 1 minute time frame also on these order flow charts. So depending on what kind of a trader you are, you can adapt to that particular time frame and complement it to your trading style. So there is a query asking about the 30-minute order flow. So I'll just quickly have a look at the 30-minute order flow chart of today of Nifty futures. And you can see how even on 30 minutes the DTPO gave us an IS, and after that we have not been able to get back above this VWAP and the POC of the 30-minute bar. So when we are looking at the 30-minute order flow, the important signal bars which form on 30 minutes, you can take the VWAP and the POC as important references. So for this IS bar, we have the VWAP of 24573 and the POC of 24600 as the reference, and you can see how we remained below this VWAP for the rest of the day. Both the next two TPOs made a high right at this VWAP. That means the seller who had come in here was defending this VWAP. So this is how we look for the order flow on 30 minutes, and these are the upside references which will carry forward. This is an RS bar. This is an RS because we were looking to probe higher, but we got selling coming in, and then that upside stalled. And this is that POC, the A period POC which I was talking about, 24462, which is the level where we even saw that big buyer come in on the 3-minute order flow. So this is how these order flow matches up. The reason we see the 3-minute order flow in sync with the 30-minute is it immediately tells us when a big player is entering. So when we saw that big 2000 lot green fellow entering at 9:30, I think that was, it was very clear that the buyer will want the auction to go in his direction, and that this will continue to remain a reference for the next session. So, and you can see this white bold line on the 30-minute order flow is the POC, and this POC kept shifting and finally it is closed right at that level. And you can see how the cot also, if you click on the 10 bar cot, it looks like it is reset, not a big, it is just -6, the 10 bar caught on 30 minutes. So we are all set for the budget day. That is the reason the inventory is not too heavy. Even on the option side, we did not see good volumes today. And it is both the Nifty and Bank Nifty has tested the series anchored VWAP. So Shai also mentioned that on Twitter. So we have had a good test after the highs, and tomorrow we are all set to have one good move going, which can extend into the month of August. So we will have to be very much ready tomorrow and accordingly get into good positions. So that's it for today, guys. If there are any more queries, just shoot them before I sign off. You can also mail us at support@vtrender.com, or you can DM me on X. My Twitter ID is open. It is at Uttam Goel. So I'll be happy to answer any queries you have regarding to the sessions we are taking. So that's it for today. Let's sign off for now, and let's look forward to a great budget tomorrow, and accordingly the market giving us a big green signal. So that is the expectation. But what happens, we will again cover it in one of our later sessions and accordingly get in sync with our trades. Thank you for joining in, guys. Signing off for now. Have a great evening.